What would you do if you were caught face to face with a hungry, fiery lion, looking right into your eyes with a fierce and determined rage, advancing towards you with the confidence and appetite of a meal well served? This was the situation of the man we're going to explore in this short story. A man who came close to death and slapped it in the face. Stay tuned, because this incredible wonder story is just starting. The night sky over Babylon was darker than ever before. The streets, usually lively and bustling, lay silent beneath the cover of shadow. But even as the city slept, the air was thick with tension, fear, and a sense of impending doom. Inside the grand palace, torches flickered uneasily against the cold stone walls as the mighty King Darius sat alone in his chamber, wrestling with regret. Somewhere beneath the palace, in the heart of the earth, a den of lions stirred restlessly, their hunger gnawing at them. In the dim light, their golden eyes gleamed, their massive bodies pacing back and forth. They were waiting for the man who would soon be thrown into their midst, a man whose faith had brought him to the very edge of death. That man was Daniel. In just a few hours, Daniel would be cast into the lion's den for the simple act of praying to his God. His enemies had conspired against him, knowing that Daniel's faith was unshakable. And now, in this kingdom where the laws of men held more power than the laws of God, Daniel was about to face the consequence of his devotion. Yet, as he stood on the edge of this terrifying fate, Daniel was not afraid. He could feel the weight of the moment, the very real threat of the lion's claws and teeth. But his heart was calm. He had always trusted in God, and that trust would not falter now. Daniel's mind raced back to the events that had led him to this moment. As one of King Darius's most trusted officials, Daniel had risen to a position of great influence in Babylon. His wisdom, his honesty, and his unwavering dedication to his work had earned him the respect of the king. In fact, Darius had planned to place Daniel in charge of the entire kingdom, making him the highest-ranking official under the king himself. But not everyone admired Daniel's success. The other rulers and governors, consumed by jealousy, had begun to plot against him. Day after day, they watched him, searching for any fault they could use against him. But Daniel was blameless. He carried out his duties with integrity and served the king with honor. The conspirators soon realized that they would never find any corruption in Daniel's conduct. "There is no way to accuse him," they muttered to one another. "The only way we can trap him is if it has something to do with his God." Daniel was known throughout the land for his faithfulness to the God of Israel. 3 times a day, he would kneel in his room facing Jerusalem and pray to the Lord. It was a routine as unshakable as his faith, and it was this that his enemies sought to use against him. One morning, the rulers and governors approached King Darius with a carefully crafted plan. With smiles that masked their deceit, they flattered the king with false praise. "Your Majesty," they said, "you are the greatest ruler in all the earth. No man or God can compare to your might. That is why we, your most loyal servants, have come to propose a new law, one that will bring even more glory to your name." Intrigued, the king leaned forward. "What law do you propose?" "For 30 days, no one in the kingdom shall pray to any god or man except to you, O king. Anyone who disobeys will be thrown into the lion's den." King Darius, flattered by their words, failed to see the trap they were laying for Daniel. Without giving it a second thought, he agreed to the law and sealed it with his royal signet. According to the laws of the Medes and Persians, once a decree was signed by the king, it could not be changed. The rulers left the king's court, their hearts filled with cruel satisfaction. They knew Daniel would never stop praying to his God, no matter what the law said. It was only a matter of time before they could catch him in the act. Word of the new decree spread quickly throughout the kingdom, reaching Daniel's ears within hours. He understood the danger it posed. But Daniel was not a man who wavered in his faith. The God he served was greater than any king, any law, or any threat of death. So, as he had done every day before, Daniel went to his room, opened his windows toward Jerusalem, and knelt down to pray. His enemies had been waiting for this moment. They crept silently to Daniel's house, watching from the shadows as he prayed to his God, oblivious to their presence. When they had seen enough, they rushed back to the palace to report their findings to the king. "Your Majesty," they said breathlessly, "didn't you sign a decree that anyone who prays to any god or man other than you would be thrown into the lion's den?" The king nodded, his brow furrowing. "Yes, that is the law." "Then you should know, Your Majesty, that Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to your decree. He continues to pray to his God 3 times a day, just as he has always done." King Darius's heart sank at their words. He had trusted Daniel above all others in his kingdom, and now he realized the terrible mistake he had made. The king spent the rest of the day trying to find a way to save Daniel, but the law was unchangeable. Even the king could not undo it. As the sun began to set, Darius knew he could delay no longer. With a heavy heart, he gave the order for Daniel to be brought to the lion's den. Daniel stood before the den, his heart steady, though the growling of the lions echoed up from the darkness. The soldiers prepared to lower him inside. King Darius himself was there, his face drawn with grief. He whispered softly, "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." His voice trembled with emotion, and a single tear rolled down his cheek as Daniel was lowered into the den. Daniel looked up at the king one last time, offering him a calm and steady gaze. He knew that the king's hands were tied, and he bore no anger or resentment. His trust was in God, the Almighty, who had been with him from his youth. The stone was rolled across the entrance, sealing Daniel in with the lions. The king pressed his royal seal into the wax, ensuring that no one could remove the stone without his authority. The sound of the heavy stones scraping against the earth was like a final solemn note, echoing through the night. But Daniel's heart was still, full of faith. The den was dark, and the lions were restless. He could hear their growls and feel their presence as they prowled around him. Their hot breath was close, their eyes glowing in the dark. The very ground beneath him trembled with their weight. Yet, Daniel did not fear. He could hear their heavy breathing, feel the vibrations as they approached. But Daniel's faith remained unshaken. His trust in God was stronger than the fear of any beast, no matter how deadly. And then something miraculous happened. The growling stopped. The lions, which had been circling him with hunger in their eyes, suddenly became calm. The den, once filled with darkness and danger, was now bathed in a soft, warm light. Daniel opened his eyes and saw before him a figure standing tall and radiant. It was an angel of the Lord, his presence filling the den with peace and protection. "Do not be afraid, Daniel," the angel said, his voice gentle but strong. "God has heard your prayers, and he has sent me to shut the mouths of the lions." The lions, which only moments before had been ready to devour Daniel, now lay at the angel's feet, their ferocity gone. They were as peaceful as lambs, their eyes closed as if in a deep sleep. Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. The God he had served so faithfully had not abandoned him in his time of need. For the rest of the night, the angel stood guard over Daniel, and the lions lay quietly beside him. Daniel, surrounded by the very creatures that were supposed to be his executioners, rested peacefully, knowing that God's protection was greater than any threat the world could throw at him. At first light, King Darius hurried to the lion's den. He had spent a sleepless night, pacing in his palace, his heart filled with fear and regret. What had he done? He couldn't bear the thought of losing Daniel, the man he admired and trusted above all others. As he reached the den, he called out in a voice trembling with hope and fear. "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" The silence that followed felt like an eternity. The king's heart pounded in his chest. But then, from deep within the den, a voice called out, strong and full of life. "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." Tears filled the king's eyes. His heart leaped with joy and relief. Immediately he ordered the stone to be removed. As the soldiers rolled it away, they found Daniel standing unharmed. The lions lay quietly in the background, not a single scratch on Daniel's body. He had trusted in his God, and God had delivered him. King Darius could hardly contain his joy as he embraced Daniel. "Your God is truly the living God," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "He has saved you from certain death." But the story was not yet over. Filled with cold anger, Darius commanded that the men who had accused Daniel be brought before him. They had plotted against an innocent man, and now they would face the same fate they had planned for Daniel. Without mercy, Darius ordered them to be thrown into the lion's den, along with their families. And unlike Daniel, they had no protection. Before they even touched the floor of the den, the lions pounced on them, crushing their bones and tearing them apart. The king's heart was heavy as he watched the justice unfold, but his spirit was lifted as he reflected on the miracle he had witnessed. God had shown his power, his faithfulness, and his mercy in the most incredible way. That day, King Darius issued a new decree, one that would change the entire kingdom of Babylon forever. It was not a decree based on fear or flattery, but on the undeniable truth that had been revealed through Daniel's ordeal. To all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every part of my kingdom, people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, his dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves, he performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. And so the kingdom of Babylon came to know the God of Israel as the one true God, whose power was greater than kings, lions, and even death itself. Daniel's story of faith, courage, and the incredible mercy of God continues to inspire people to this day. He faced the greatest trial of his life, surrounded by danger, yet his trust in God never wavered. And because of his faith, God delivered him in a miraculous way. For our God is mighty to save, and his grace is beyond measure.
Till I come your way next Sunday, I'm your Wonder Tribesman, Prosper Nwachukwu, bringing you the mysteries of love. Share this video with your friends, leave thoughts in the comment, and let's keep the conversation going.